For years, a quiet ache echoed in Sarah Johnson's heart. It was a space she yearned to fill with the warmth and laughter of motherhood. A dream that seemed to drift further away with each passing season. Then, on a cold November day, an inexplicable feeling, a pull she couldn't ignore, guided her to the local adoption center. The air inside was warm, but it held a stillness, a sense of waiting. And that's where she saw him. He was a small boy, tucked into a corner, looking so fragile against the oversized chair. His name was Eli. He clutched a faded red blanket, holding it so tightly it seemed to be the only thing anchoring him to this world. His dark hair fell over his eyes, a curtain shielding him from everyone. The staff had told Sarah he didn't speak, didn't make eye contact, didn't respond to anything or anyone. He was a silent, withdrawn little soul. But Sarah saw something else. She saw a flicker of a person hiding behind a wall of fear. She approached him slowly, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and trepidation. She knelt down, bringing herself to his level, and in the softest voice she could manage, she whispered, "Hi, Eli." For a long moment, nothing happened. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, almost painfully, his small hand, still clutching the blanket, reached out. It trembled as it moved through the air, finally resting lightly on her own. In that single, electric touch, Sarah knew. He wasn't mute. He was terrified. It was a fear so profound it had stolen his voice, locked it away where no one could reach it. But in that touch, a connection was made, a tiny spark in the overwhelming darkness. Bringing Eli home was the beginning of a journey unlike any other. It wasn't the picture-perfect fantasy she had imagined. The first few weeks were a delicate dance of silence and space. The nights were the hardest. They were filled with Eli's silent cries, whimpers that shook his small frame but never found a voice. He would wake from nightmares, his body rigid with fear, drenched in a cold sweat. He was haunted by shadows of a past he couldn't or wouldn't speak about. The faded red blanket was his constant companion, his shield against the world. Sarah knew this wouldn't be easy. She knew healing wasn't a straight line. Every day she met his silence with unwavering patience. She wrapped him in a cocoon of gentleness and understanding. She never pushed, never prodded. Instead, she whispered the same promise to him, day after day, night after night. As she tucked him in, she'd smooth his hair and say, "You're safe now. You're safe here with me." She repeated it like a mantra, hoping the words would eventually seep past his fear and into his heart. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. Trust, like a tiny seed, began to sprout. Eli started following her around the house, a small shadow just a few feet behind. He would sit beside her at the breakfast table, not speaking, but just being near. He started sleeping a little more peacefully, the silent cries growing less frequent. He would watch her as she cooked or read, his dark eyes filled with a quiet curiosity. He still didn't speak, but his presence was no longer one of sheer terror, but of cautious observation. He was learning her rhythms, her kindness, her consistency. He was learning what safety felt like. Then came the storm. It was a violent, raging tempest that rattled the windows and sent thunder booming through the house. The world outside was chaos. It mirrored the storm that had been brewing inside Eli. He was trembling, the old terror returning to his eyes. He ran to Sarah, his little body shaking uncontrollably. She pulled him onto her lap, wrapping her arms around him, trying to shield him from the noise from his memories, and then it happened. As another clap of thunder shook the house, he broke. He buried his face in her shoulder, and his small body convulsed with sobs, real, audible sobs this time. And through his tears, a whispered, broken plea emerged, the words shattering Sarah's heart into a million pieces. "Don't leave me." "Mommy." Left, it was the first time he had spoken since the night he was found. The night his own mother had abandoned him, alone in the freezing cold. The dam of his silence had finally broken, and all the pain, the fear, the abandonment came rushing out, her own tears mixing with his. She didn't say anything for his. She didn't say anything for a long time. She just held him, rocking him gently, letting him know he wasn't alone in his storm. She held him until the thunder subsided, until the first rays of morning light filtered through the window. And she whispered her promise, But this time it held a new weight, a new depth. I will never leave you. I will never walk away. The months that followed were a time of gentle healing. That night had been a turning point. Eli began to talk more, his voice soft and hesitant at first, like a muscle that hadn't been used in a long time. He would ask simple questions, point out birds in the garden, and tell her about his dreams. The silence was replaced with a quiet chatter, and the house began to fill with the sound of a child's life. One sunny afternoon, they were in the kitchen, baking cookies. Flour dusted their clothes and the counter, and the sweet smell of chocolate and vanilla filled the air. Eli was focused, carefully placing chocolate chips on each cookie. Sarah watched him, her heart overflowing. He seemed so different from the silent, fearful boy she had met months ago. Suddenly, he stopped. He looked down at the faded red blanket he had placed on a nearby chair. For months, it had been his security, his armor. He looked at it, then back at Sarah. And then he did something that made her hold her breath. He dropped the blanket. He just let it fall to the floor. He walked over to her, his small hand tugging on her sleeve to get her attention. She knelt down, her eyes meeting his. He looked right at her, his gaze clear and steady. And then, with a soft, confident voice, a voice full of a love that had been hard-won, he said the 3 words Sarah had spent her entire life praying to hear. "Mom, I love you." In that moment, everything clicked into place. The years of longing, the nights of worry, the patient waiting, it was all for this. Sarah pulled him into a hug, burying her face in his hair. The smell of cookie dough and pure, unadulterated love filling her senses. She finally understood. Love isn't a magical fix. It doesn't heal wounds overnight. It works slowly, gently. It's a quiet daily promise. It's showing up again and again. Love heals through the kind of compassion that never, ever gives up. This story is a powerful reminder that family isn't just about blood. It's about love, patience, and the courage to heal together. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content that celebrates the power of human connection. Thank you for watching.